Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Sage Bimi podcast. Today, we'll be embarking back on Sadhguru Karma, and today, we'll be looking at two topics here. So, we're just going to jump right in and continue to from where we left off. And this is Kula Vedana, the weight of collective karma. When I was reading this segment, I was like, the weight of collective karma. I understand that karma means action, doing something. So this is something to do with a lot of people's doing. It has weight. So this is basically suffering. I'm suffering because of another person. This was what triggered my mind when I read the weight of collective karma. So while I was going through this, I stirred up something that caught my attention. It said, suffering within you comes not from just your individual past, it comes from forefathers and will be transmitted to your unborn child. So this means that what my previous forefathers did will and has to affect me in any way out there. It's not just what I personally do, what people around me do affects me in one way or the other. That's why if there's something happening somewhere in the country, let's take an example. If I live in Nigeria, which I don't, and the people in power stop being embezzling funds, that means my life will just get better and better because infrastructure will get built properly. The allocated funds to develop the country will take place. Maybe there's more schools will open, people will get more jobs and something of the sort. This will really help me out. Anyways, that's one point. So he went and told us that based on understanding that a certain karmic memory imprinted in your system is transmitted to you, it's transmitted to your children and thereby perpetuates suffering. This means you're creating the type of karma that will definitely have a negative impact in the future generation. Like, let's use the example that I gave on people embezzling funds. If a road is not built right now, fine, it will be affecting the people who are currently right now. So what if my offspring wants to build this road? See, when the time comes, he'll have to get the funds to build the road, which I could have done, which would have negatively affected him or her. This is just a simple definition, not a simple explanation of how the collective karma works. Not only my child, my offspring, someone else's offspring out there will also suffer because there's no road, or because there's no infrastructure, there's no jobs, because he wants to earn money, he doesn't know where to earn money, so he has to work in order to get the money. And it is kind of frustrating knowing that the only thing he can do is endure through the suffering. He gives us some explanation on back in the old days, the Indian kings, for the betterment, for lack of a better word, for the good of the country, the betterment of the country, some of the kings, although right now it will be outrageous to do this, some of the kings let their wives get children with sages so that their karma will not affect the latter generation. Because if this child comes from a sage, the sage has been doing this and this, most of the characteristics will be from the queen and the sage, not from the king. So his greed, his what his greed, his desires, and his sufferings won't be transmitted to the child, as he won't transfer the genes from him. It'll be from the sage, and we all know how a sage is. So this will help the country, and this was one of the reasons why the old days people from India had this and put this into practice. But nowadays, if you dare do that, you'll get rebuked. So some old practices have been kicked off, and they are non-negotiable. So he goes ahead and gives an example of this is actually another example. If you go watch a movie, you may laugh, cry, eat popcorn, then come out of the movie, you've enjoyed the movie. But you who just went to watch the movie, you won't understand the background, what happened in order to make or create the film. That's the same with life. In ancient times, there were people who knew this is how life works, this is how it affects people. That's why I'll speak African. In most of the stories that I've read about African cultures and everything, even the laziest of people, they never went out hungry because there was sufficient food, unlike today. So back in the day, there was sufficient food. Even the people who did not work got to eat. You couldn't hear anyone dying of hunger because they had really good practices. But if you compare that with today, people are malnourished. You see people dying, some suffering, get reports. It's just a whole another thing. He gives another example. He says in the 20th century, the human population was about 1.6 billion. And as of August 2020, the population jolted up to 7.8 billion. Then he says, this is irresponsible karma. Like people been messing around like nobody's business. It's as if people been out there doing the most. So he said we cannot blame this on God's will, and surely you can't, because how do you say that this is God's will that people are out there making babies? See, it's your own decision to make a baby or not make a baby. It's your decision to either go on or stay at home and be without money. He then gives another anecdote. He was in a World Poverty Conference, yeah? In the World Poverty Conference, someone was like, how should I say this? Uh, he asked, these people are in poverty, deep poverty, and he was wondering, isn't this God's will? Sadhguru said, yes, this is indeed defines God's will. If another person is hungry, it must be a divine will. If someone else's children is dying of malnutrition, it must be a divine plan. But if you start starving, will you have your own plan? Won't you? He asked, and I've asked, won't you? Unfortunately, we have twisted the basic aspects around life to suit our own distorted self-serving logic. He then goes ahead and says, if you allow humanity to overflow, the divine will happen. You're supposed to aim, make yourself in such a way that you enslave the divine, not the other way around, because the divine is within you, not without. There's been too many talks in this world about the divine, but you don't have to talk about it. You don't. Karma means action. That's just it, not what people are embezzling out there. So, the way I am right now, the way I will be tomorrow, will also be my making. That is karma, nothing else. If a child walks malnourished, this is the collective karma. This is happening because our previous forefathers have not done what needed to be done to nourish that child. Nothing more, nothing else. Yes, you may not be the one who produced the child. It might be karma for other people. But still, it's your karma. Because that child is suffering and you're seeing the pain that he or she is struggling to survive, and it hurts within you. The technologies that we have today could destroy the planet. You can imagine how nuclear weapons could have destroyed the planet. Like if Hitler started a world war and used nuclear weapons, it could have been disaster. I don't want to mention Putin in this, so I'll leave it as it is. But if we destroy the world right now, what about the kids to come? They'll suffer. Eh? That's just it. So if we leave the world to ignorance, to if we empower ignorant people, they will run the risk of sabotaging humanity entirely. We can actually destroy humanity without nuclear weapons, just by the decisions that people make. Each and everyone, if each and everyone's action has repercussions, and hence that's what is called collective karma. Destiny debate and the astrology argument. So it starts off with asking a couple of questions, which I'll read out loud here. So, what about fate, destiny, kismet? What the hell is kismet? Do these play a role in determining our lives? Are the words relevant at all to our understanding of karma? He says it's time to demolish some myths, because what you call fate is just a life situation you have created yourself unconsciously, because most of the time you're unaware of things happening to you. They are just happening. Oh, you've gotten a business meeting. Yeah, you knew while you were creating this meeting. Either you were conscious about it or you were unconscious about it. Yes, I've borrowed a loan. Like Shankar and Pillai, when the book started, he took loans, a couple of loans, and he was creating his debt situation. Yeah, you were not aware that you were getting yourself in debt. You've created the life situation that you're currently in. Either you knew about it or you did not know about it. That's just it. There is no in between. There's nothing that you can say otherwise. So he goes ahead and gives an example. If you're diagnosed with hypertension right now, you may think, oh, why did this happen to me? Why me? Why not my neighbor? But what you won't acknowledge is you spent a lot of years getting angry, mad, with a very high temper. And you were like, huh? Why am I with hypertension right now? Why do I have high blood pressure? Why me? Why me? Forgetting that you've been blowing off your top 5 times a day. Angry, mad, frustrated. That's something else. So over the years, this builds up. You get high blood pressure. Anyways, let's take a good example. Plastic bottles and everything. Over the years, they pile up again and again and again. Don't worry, I'm an environmentalist, so I'll have to talk about this. So after the years, these things are non-biodegradable, so they don't disappear. They are just there looking at you, because they take more, like CG 100, or is it 300 years? I should have my facts in my fingers anyway. You get what I'm trying to say. If these things keep piling up, they'll just be there. They'll not go away. And as they keep piling up, we keep realizing that it's kind of our doing. This situation is our doing, as it can't be changed because it's already happened, and we are the ones who have done it routinely over and over ourselves, bringing us to this situation that we are in right now. He goes ahead and says, and droughts to explain how over the years this, he calls them horoscopes, not horoscopes. He goes ahead and explains how over the years these horoscopes take place because of your actions. After explaining this, he goes about and tells us that people start a spiritual journey in order to get rid of their quote unquote horoscopes, to get rid of your behavior, your habits, your everything. You get on a spiritual journey. That's basically it. You don't get spiritual because you've been heartbroken. Okay, yes, you get spiritual because you've been heartbroken, but it's to get yourself from the habits that you were previously used to. Like, you used to do this, then you get on your spiritual journey to change this habit that you are. Oh, you used to sleep at 2 a.m. chatting up with someone who you deeply cared about. Now your sleeping pattern has changed. You sleep at 9 so that you can wake up at 4 to pray or do your meditation. He goes ahead and gives us an explanation on back in the days. Like back in the day, 1,000 years ago, before the ships were invented, or when the ships were invented, the ones that were wooden, where there were no propellers and everything. If you wanted to go to America from India and the winds were blowing east, you will go east. Yeah. And if the winds are blowing east, you find yourself in Japan. This was inevitable. The winds decided on where your destiny is. But nowadays, that's not the case. If I want to go to America, I'll go to America. Doesn't matter where the wind blows. Today, we can go anywhere we want. We propel our lives, and we don't allow the winds to push us this way or that way. And he says this is similar to the life process. If you are self propelled, we say you are on a spiritual path. If you're being pushed around by your accumulated tendencies, your habits, your prejudices, then you are at the mercy of your horoscope. He then says that how traditional families in India would indicate a person's tendencies, karmic substances, the possible directions their life might take based on astrological reading. Like, someone can read you because of your habits, your tendency, and everything. But if you're on a spiritual path, nobody can read or tell you how your future will be, because nobody knows. You are the one who's in control. But along the way, we dropped the technologies of transcendence and got stuck with the horoscopes. And this is kind of sad in the sense that our habits and our tendencies are the ones propelling us. That's just the way I am, people say. And you don't decide to change, you don't want to change. And even if you're given advice on something that you would do or something of the sort, says that's just the way I am, as in you've accepted that. And it's very possible for you to change. Anyways, for spiritual practice, a definition is always about taking your life or your destiny in your own hands. That's a spiritual path. That's what he says. If you want to fly, you just look at the weather, see the rain, see how cold it is, see how the wind is blowing, see how the low pressure areas are, and so on, and decide, will I fly or not? And where am I going? You just decide. Traditionally, people turn to a trilogy for the same reason. What trilogy? Why? Which reason? They turn to the trilogy to allow them to write their own destiny, not to allow it to be written by inherent predisposition and vasanas. Remember, vasanas is someone's smell. Predispositions is like habits that you've accumulated in tendencies. So, if you're in a spiritual path, your smell won't decide your destiny, and your habits won't decide your destiny. So, it says that this guy, he's called, let me check, Macadamia. So Macadamia, I hope I'm saying that right. So Macadamia, although he died an early death, the young man was courageous and triumphed over his own life and death. He lived and sought out grace to overcome his death. And while he did seek grace to overcome his death, he learned how to become available to grace. And this is also karma. He said that that's what it means to be spiritual. It means that you are now willing to take the very process of life and death into your own hands. It means that now you say to yourself, it doesn't matter what the forefathers did. It doesn't matter what I did in the past. I have decided where I'm going to be. I have determined that I am moving towards my liberation, and that's a spiritual path. In fact, if you're on a spiritual path, authentic astrologers, the palm readers and everything can never make predictions for you. So being in a spiritual path means you are committed to charting your own destiny. You're not windblown, you are self-propelled. And we come to the end of chapter 2. We go to the sadhana. Over here he's basically giving guidance, suggestions. He tells you on how to start a spiritual journey, you just make an intention as all encompassing as you can. You feel it to your core. You just start with a simple resolve. Decide to be the mother to the world. And if you're a guy like me, okay, in the future you'll get to learn when he says a man and a woman, they are just the same being. Okay, let me just give a brief description. You might appear to be a man, like physically you're a man, yeah, or physically you're a woman, but that doesn't mean that there's nothing involving a man inside you, because a woman and a man got together to be able to create you. So it means you are both man and woman. So when he says right here, being a mother to the world, when you look at everyone as your own, like you look at everyone like your own family. If you have a good relationship with family, look at everyone as your friend. If nobody out there has, like, you have like zero acquaintances of people that you actually enjoy being around. Look at it as people who you care about, someone that you love. And if you do this, you don't need to be told by anyone that this is something you should do, this is something that you shouldn't do. It will come naturally because you see this one as someone who you care about, someone who you will not like to be stolen from, someone who you will not like to see suffer because of A, B, C, D. So when you see everyone as your own, you will make better decisions, and you'll make a tremendous impact. If you're conscious every moment that everything and everyone on this planet is yours, you don't need laws to tell you what to do. I'm reading here, paraphrasing. You don't need any laws to tell you what you shall and shall not do. You have changed fundamental identity. Your karmic boundaries now fall away, and you experience a sense of boundlessness. A new identity of inclusiveness and involvement is born. That's how we finished the chapter of today, folks. And one thing straight, if at this point in time you don't understand what karma is and what not your superstition, you'll understand this. Your perception doesn't make it to be true. Whatever you're thinking, it's a thought that appeared in your head. You usually get outrageous thoughts, usually get like that makes sense kind of thoughts. And if someone comes up with a good explanation of why 1 plus 1 is 11 and convinces everyone that 1 plus 1 is 11, 1 plus 1 will be scientifically changed to 11. And once that changes, a lot of things will change in the world because there's proof. So your thoughts have no proof, and your thoughts change a lot throughout the time. So don't hold on to your thoughts like the gospel truth, and they might not be. So if you start asking yourself, I've been talking to this person, why isn't he or she responding? Then you start thinking like, is he looking down on me or she looking down on me? Was what I said not really of that importance? These are your thoughts. They don't make it true. And the only way you can understand that they are true is you will never understand if they are true. So just let it go. Just say, acknowledged, I thought about that. Let me move. Because you'll actually never know. Even if that person tells you ABCD, it might not be what was going on inside his or her head. Anyways, let's wrap this off from there. And I hope you got from the previous meditation to now. I hope you got to understand, and welcome to the Sage Be Me podcast.